Welcome to Beyond Pipeline. We're talking about how to win the inner game of sales. My name is John Abouche, and I'm your host. And today we have a very special guest. He is the co-founder of the Sales Enabled podcast, has been tearing up quota at ZoomInfo for the last year. Elmer Lopez, my friend, how are you?
Doing well. I'm pumped to be on here. I've been seeing your content for a while too. Man, you're a grinder. You grind on the weekends.
Thank you, brother.
And to be honest, I respect that just because like I was telling you earlier, like Alex Ramosi says, if that's something you enjoy doing, then do it. If you're not going to burn out, then just keep enjoying what you do.
Oh, yeah.
I love
I
it.
appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. For the folks at home, I'm also into yoga and hang out with friends. I don't just work, but yes, I do. I do work diligently. With that being said, we have a lot to cover. I'm very grateful you decided to hop on. Your content's been absolutely outstanding. I can tell you're a really good person. So I want to start with a really simple question. Just like, what got you into sales? How did you get into sales in the first place? I know there's some background there, but I'd love to better understand that, and we can go from there.
Yeah, man. To be honest, I wasn't trying to do healthcare my whole life because that's what my parents told me to do. My parents are immigrants
Yeah.
and maybe shouldn't have listened to them, but that was my only direction that I thought of. And you just listen to your parents. So I was trying to go the healthcare route the whole time. And right when it came time to go to PA school, which is physician assistant school,
Mhm.
I got into PA school. And when it came literally a month before school started, I looked at the debt I would have been in, 150K in debt. I was
Dude.
looking at that number and I was like, wow, I have zero debt right now because I got lucky and I had financial aid for undergrad. This would put me back so many years. Or I don't know about you, but maybe it would take 2 years or something like that. But I don't like debt. So at
Yeah,
least not in
I
that
get that.
perspective. And the fact that PA's only made up to like 180K or something like that, I was like, oh, this doesn't really make sense. And thankfully, I lived with a buddy of mine in San Francisco who was already working in sales. And this guy was working remotely, just doing calls in his room. He's like talking to me while I'm in my room doing applications every once in a while. And then I was like, this guy's living the life. What does this guy do? And so I talked to him a little bit more about it. And I was like, you know what? This might be something I'll have to try out because I'm not trying to get into the debt. I'm not passionate about healthcare. I was kind of just doing it because my parents told me to do it,
Yeah.
and it just seemed like the right thing to do. Dedicated my whole life to it, but it is what it is. And I did a full 180 and went for tech sales, but I'll never regret it. I think I make, yeah, I'll just never regret it to this day. I'm completely happy with that decision.
Dude. Yeah, that's a big leap, dude. It's just like going, working, getting like thinking you're gonna go the MT route, getting into sales. I'd love to better can you walk us through what that decision was like for you to decide, hey, this is not for me. I'm gonna go and be in sales. Like that's a big moment, especially if your parents, I know your immigrant background, parents like probably healthcare. Like, can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I think when I think back about it, I remember this moment being in the pool with my girlfriend's best friend because my girlfriend's best friend was a nurse at
Hmm.
Stanford. She was like a pediatrics nurse. And I was asking her, I was like, I know you kind of regret being in healthcare because she ended up switching out. She's no longer in healthcare now. Now she has the debt from nursing. Um, she has no regrets either. She's glad she did it. But at the end of the day, I was trying to understand like why she didn't enjoy it anymore and what were the regrets, if there were any. And it just a lot of the things aligned with what I was thinking. I was like, financially, it doesn't make sense. I'm not really passionate about it. And if you don't feel that passion, you're not going to enjoy throughout that whole process. And at some point, you're going to end up leaving and switching careers anyways. So why get
Yeah.
yourself into this pickle? That moment right there, I just remember I just kept talking to her about if I should make the switch. So I just started talking to people. I knew a guy that like went from EMT, like I was an EMT with him, and he went to become a VP of sales. And I started
Okay.
talking to him too, got on a call. I was like, what did you do? Why did you not decide to become a doctor? Because he was going super hard to be a doctor. And he told me the same things I was feeling. And it just reassured me and made me feel like, okay, I'm not alone, right? Because that's the hardest part. You're alone trying to figure this out. Like, where the heck do I start?
Yeah.
then when you talk to people and you're like, okay, they've done it too. They've done the 180.
Yeah.
I can do it. It's just figuring out where the heck to start, right?
Yeah. And I appreciate what you said about like uncovering like what is it that you think you're passionate about? Do you understand like what isn't what you're not passionate about? Like how do you understand or decide on sales specifically then, right? Like was it can you help because I think a lot of people struggle to find passion in their life or create it rather, really. I think it's more of a creation than anything else. But can you walk through how you understood what you did want to go do and what that process was like?
I think falling upon tech sales in general was kind of lucky
Mhm.
because, again, my housemate, the guy I was living with, he was doing tech sales. He was an SDR. So I was like, let me try it out. And I'd asked him too. I was like, you think I would be good at it? And he's like, to be honest, with your drive and your hunger, yeah, I think you would be great. So he would prepare me for the interviews. We did some cold calling, mock cold calls, and just try to learn a little bit of everything. I tried learning the tools he was using. And then within the next 2 weeks, I was already interviewing and I got a job 2 weeks after that. So it was it was pretty quick, I feel like.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think going from SDR to AE and then finally an account manager today, it's I was never 100% sure about my decision until like I got my second SDR job and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm good at this.
Yeah. What what was that uncertainty like when you weren't certain about the decision? 'Cause I think that's what scares a lot of people from making a strong decision. There's like, I'm not quite sure what's on the other side, right? Like, so how did you deal
Mm,
with the uncertainty between making that decision and then when you're like, all right, this is definitely for me? Because
yeah,
I can resonate with that feeling of, oh, this is for me, right? But
yeah,
the uncertainty, I think, kills people.
yeah. I think you won't know unless you try,
Mhm.
right? And within healthcare, even in there, I didn't know what I wanted to do yet within the healthcare realm. My parents wanted me to be a doctor. So I was like, I don't want to be a doctor, so let me try the other stuff. So I became a pharmacy technician, got my certification for that. Was doing that for like 2 years, decided, okay, I don't want to do that. Okay, let me try something else. I tried being an EMT, did that for a few years. I was like, damn, this is hard and they don't get paid much. And let me try something else. So I kept doing that, kept trying new things. And then finally I got to something I wanted to do. So if you don't try, you'll never just really know. So it's just a matter of going out there and making those mistakes, failing forward, and that's how you're going to really figure it out.
Yeah, I the biggest takeaway I had there was if you don't try, you're never going to know. And then you constantly shift it and you shift it and you shift it again. I think that willingness to, and kudos to you, that willingness to push forward, even though like you're like, hey, this is not for me, and then this is not for me, but keep going. I think it's something that a lot of people miss. I absolutely love. Where does your motivation come from? Right? Because I think like you have a unique motivation. Where does that come from for you?
For me, it's going to be definitely like my immigrant family.
Yeah.
They, th- I think first generation, I guess it's Americans or immigrants. First generation immigrants. If our first generation immigrants, the ones that came
Whatever you
here
want it to
after.
be. Whatever you want it to
Okay.
be. Yeah.
I know I'm a first gen.
There you go.
First generation kids, that's what I'm gonna say. I know first generation kids feel this pressure from their parents and their family that you have to make it because
Mhm.
they did all this work to move over here from a different country and not get sent back.
Mhm.
So that that pressure already kind of just comes on you and you just feel like, okay, I need to do everything possible to make them proud and make what they wanted to have. They wanted to come here for my financial freedom, for their financial freedom, and for some kind of success, right? The American
Mhm.
dream. So for me, I just always think I want to create that for them. Like my parents aren't wealthy by any means. We grew up like low to middle income. So I want to get them to the point where they're no longer low to middle income. I want to get them to be financially free and not have to worry about it, let them retire. Same thing with my whole family. So I have a pretty big goal when it comes to that. We're talking my
Mhm.
whole family, we're talking a few millions. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
motivation.
Yeah. No, I can absolutely respect that though. And I resonate with that too. What did that type of pressure do for you? as you were growing up, and even today? Like like I think people don't understand the gift that that pressure is. I came from a similar background. I'm not first gen or anything, but the circumstances were similar. Um, I think it does a lot of things for people. Like, what does that do for you, and how does it shape the way you look at the world?
I would say I think it's helpful personally because like you asked, what's your motivation? Like that's
Mhm.
my motivation and that's what keeps me going. And I think that's why I'll kill it in anything that I really do, just
Yeah,
because I'll go all in. And I'm always thinking, how can I do this and truly succeed out of it? So I think at the end of the day, that pressure, it can be negative if you let it kind of just take you over, but you can also just see it as motivation and to keep you going. Like I've been motivated to keep on going, and tech sales, you can burn out pretty quickly
yeah,
if you're not careful. But for me, I'm just so motivated by that different reason that I don't feel burnt out. And if I do feel burnt out, I'll go take a vacation real quick and we'll be
yeah,
good. But then that
yeah.
motivation still comes back from having that pressure from my family.
How do you think that that differs from what other reps or people experience on a day-to-day basis? I think it is unique. Like, how do you think that that differs from maybe some of the other folks that you've run across?
That's a good question. I've never, yeah, I guess what differs there is like for me, I'm gonna keep on trying to be that top performer. And then some sales reps are okay with like, hey, I have a job. I just need to hit
Yeah,
quota. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
So that's kind of where the difference kind of comes in. Is like I'm not just trying to just because I have a job, I'm not just trying to hit quota. That's not who I am. I'm trying to surpass quotas for one. It's going to help me on my social media because I'm growing my social media for one. For two, it's going to help me grow internally. For three, I love growth. So if I want to grow, I
yeah,
have to keep crushing my numbers.
yeah,
I'm never I'm never okay with being comfortable and staying the same. And I've said this before, and I think the fear of staying the same and it the fear of staying the same is bigger than the fear of change. So
yes,
that's kind of the way I look at it.
yeah. I absolutely love that the fear of staying the same is bigger than the fear of change. Where does that come from for you? Because that's a big. I'm gonna call that a belief. That's a really helpful thing to have in your mental arsenal. Like, where'd you pick that up?
I think just having that growth mentality, I
Yeah,
think that's where it comes from. So like it all stems from the same place, like what we talked about. Um, yeah, that's kind of really it because it comes all from the same place.
but that is very fair. I want to transition a little bit and talk about your growth at ZoomInfo specifically. You've absolutely crushed it, especially in a more challenging economic environment. I saw one of the posts that said there were a couple posts that really resonated recently with you, and I just absolutely loved it. One was like I really believe in volume, right? And I want to like so with that context, like can you walk us through what's led to your success at ZoomInfo and some of the lessons that you learned there?
Yeah, I think one of the things I was talking about is like doing a high volume of demos. And keep in mind, you can burn out from doing like a high volume of demos, have high volume of calls. So you do have to, like I keep saying, you got to be careful with that kind of thing. But you
Hmm.
can learn quick. Um, so that is another. It's there's a pro and con to doing high volume, right? But the pros ended up being on my favor because I had that hungry and growth mentality where I wanted to keep going regardless. So I didn't let it destroy me. So like I crushed it with quotas and kept growing internally because I was doing 20 demos. What was it? 24 demos a week. It was around 24 demos a
That's a
week.
lot.
It is a lot. It was pretty high volume with like a pretty hefty quota. It, I don't know if I can talk numbers. So it was a
It's
pretty
okay.
hefty
Yeah.
quota. So then it's like if I was able to do that in this kind of economy, and I can keep moving up within the company, I was like, I'm gonna do that, right? I saw a lot of people get let go, and it is what it is. But some of the people couldn't handle the pressure. They couldn't handle the volume. I completely get it because, like I said, at times I did burn out. And that's why I had to go take breaks,
Hmm.
take some vacations, and you come back a little bit more refreshed.
Yeah, I absolutely respect that. You mentioned burnout. Um, how do you define burnout for yourself, and how do you know when you're getting to that point? And then what do you do um mitigate it and or just recover from it?
Yeah, man, when you open that computer, you're like, "Ugh, man, I got a freaking demo right now. Like, I don't want to do this right now." And
Yeah,
that's when I know I'm burnt out because usually I'm like, oh, let's go. I'm trying
let's
to
go. Yeah, yeah, let's do it.
close
Yeah,
more. I'm trying to like upsell them. I'm trying to do more, more, more. But when I'm feeling that mentally, I'm like, oh shoot, I'm in a bad state right now. I already know it. So I need to go do something about it. So either I'll go for a walk and hopefully that's a quick cure, which sometimes it
hmm
is. Sometimes I'll just go for a quick 15, 20-minute walk and it'll help me out. Sometimes I need something a little better, like a vacation, like I said. So sometimes you need some time away. Like there was when I was crushing quota at the beginning as an AE at ZoomInfo as a commercial account executive. The first 6 months I went super, super hard. Got moved
yeah,
up to a corporate account executive. And at that point I felt a little burnt out. I did. And my manager had told me to slow down too, because you do get a bigger quota the more you move up, of course. So I took a trip to Japan for 3 weeks, came
oh
back,
shit.
and I was like, I'm ready. Like, let's go, you know? So that's kind of how you figure out when you're burnt out and what to do with it.
No, that's totally fair. I think my belief is that a lot of people think they're burnt out and they're not. They're just stopping too soon. I don't know if you share that belief. If you do, how do you balance that, right? Because some days I feel like I show up, I'm just like, oh, like this is just brutal. But like, I don't know if that's burnout, right? That's just like being a part of the process and learning and
Mm.
like at least in my definition. Curious if you share that, and then if you do, what how you can tell if like you're burning out versus if you just need to keep going.
I think it depends on the reason why you feel burnt out, right?
Okay.
If you're like, if you're feeling like, oh man, I'm definitely not enjoying this anymore, and it's been like, I don't know, let's say you take that break, you take that vacation. Let's say I went to Japan and I came back and I was like, oh man, I'm still not feeling this.
Hmm.
That's when I would know I'm burnt out from this
I
position.
like that.
And I would,
I like
it's
that.
time to go to do something else. Like maybe I'm not in the right place. If you get your head right, because you're in a bad headspace when you're thinking about this, and you go get your hair, you go clear your head, and once you get your head clear and really think about it, and you come back and you're like, okay, this still isn't it. That's when you know
Hmm.
it's time to switch.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on what you're really feeling.
Okay. I want to follow that up with what do you do to manage your energy and manage your overall focus on like a week to week basis? Like, can you walk through like a typical, we're getting really tactical right now, but I kind of like the thread. Can you walk through like a typical, I know you do the day in the life videos, I get
Day in the
that, but
life.
like, yeah, I totally get that. But like off the TikTok or whatever, like, can you walk through like what you tell yourself in the morning or like what you do in the morning, kind of get yourself set, how you wrap up? Just I think it would help a lot of people that are listening that just struggle with energy management is what I'll call it.
Yeah, energy management. That's a good point. Yeah, because like having the energy is what matters. I think so. I mean, on day in the life, like I said, baby. I'll try to
Like
go to bed. Honestly, I could go to bed earlier, but I have a girlfriend, so
fair.
I got to give her some attention too. So ideally, I would like to be in bed by 10 a.m. PST, but usually I'm actually going to bed by 11 a.m. PST. And I work East Coast hours, so I'm waking up by like 5:55 and I have my first meeting at 6 a.m. PST with my manager and team.
Oh,
So
you're rolling out of bed.
rolling out of bed and hopping into a meeting right away.
Oh, bro, that I okay. Keep telling me this because this is not how I do it. I respect it. I get it, but boy, that is
Don't
brutal.
respect it. It's not the best way.
Yeah,
I go, I brush my teeth real quick, use the bathroom, and hop right into the meeting. I know that that's not the that's not the best way to do it, but I'm working East Coast hours.
I get
I'm not
that.
gonna wake up 30 minutes earlier to do my whole routine. You get what I mean?
Oh, it's
So
fair.
I take that first meeting, and then I'll if I have any or like customer meetings, I'll do the customer meetings real quick. Take a quick huge cup of water so there's no headache. Um, drive over to a WeWork if there's no meetings in the middle, and then I'll just grind at the WeWork because at the WeWork I'm really just grinding. Like I don't know the environment here. Like I'm just really zoned in.
Mhm.
Whereas if I'm at home, sometimes I'll like I don't know, sit on the couch and work, and then I'll start slouching, and I'll keep working, but then I'm slouching, and I'm like, nah, I don't like that. So in order to really put my focus in and be like motivated by my surrounding environment, I like being here at the WeWorks. Um, grab my Chipotle, go work out, and I think the workouts that's huge. If you're not
Yeah,
working out,
I agree,
you're
dude.
and you're not getting out there to get some sun, you're gonna feel like crap. Like one thing I keep forgetting to mention is like go on walks. Like
Yeah, I
these
go on walks
walks,
too.
if you're
Yeah,
if you're if you're if you're staying inside the whole time, I
awful,
start to feel like
dude.
crap sometimes. Like if I
Awful.
don't go outside to take a
Yeah.
walk. So I'll go on that walk, get some sun, and I'm like, oh my God, that 10-minute walk without my phone or without
Oh, it's
anything, like
beautiful. Do
I
you
feel
nap? I gotta ask, do you nap? Because I definitely nap. I'm talking 10, 20 minutes. Like
sometimes,
oh dude, I'm
sometimes.
big napper over here. Yeah.
I like power naps. 10-minute power naps,
Same.
that's
So 10,
solid,
20
but
minutes, dude.
10, yeah, 10, 20 minutes is the sweet spot. But sometimes I don't need it. Sometimes
I
I'll just
agree.
push through. But when I
Yeah.
really, really need it, like maybe I didn't sleep enough or I didn't sleep well, I'll nap a
Yeah.
little bit like after the gym. By the gym, I'll just crank out a workout, do the
Okay.
sauna, shower there because I go to Equinox.
I like it.
Go
Oh,
home.
you go to Equinox. It's fancy, bro. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. The goal is to go in there and network, and I haven't networked with anyone yet. So
Hey, I do. There's something about the surroundings, things like that, that I think are important. So I definitely
I
respect
think
that.
so too, man. Like
Yeah.
I hear people talk, I hear about like I'll go in there and I listen to the conversations that people are having, and I don't want to budge in because like obviously
Yeah.
it's not my place. I'm waiting for the right moment to actually talk to these people. But Equinox also has like social events in the summer, so I'm excited for that. But overall, when I hear these conversations, it's kind of motivating because I'm like, oh, okay. And I look at the cars that are in the parking lot. And it's like when you put yourself in that environment where all
Yeah.
those high level people are, something's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
Either something's going to happen for you or it's just going to keep you even more motivated to get to where they
Dude.
are.
Yeah.
It does something
I agree.
psychologically that you just don't realize. You
I
know what I
agree.
mean?
What
Same thing
I
here at the WeWorks. Like the WeWorks, there's a lot of co-founders and CEOs and shit.
Yeah.
And I'd be talking to them sometimes. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. So
Yeah. Dude, no, I want to follow that up with, like what was it like as you like ascended? It sounds like you come from a lower income or lower mid-middle income background. Like what was it like starting to earn money for you and just starting to change the perception about how you handled just like what you could do financially? Because I know I went through a phase where I went from, not the greatest circumstances financially to okay, there's really I can really do something. What was
yeah,
that like for you?
it was interesting because right after graduating, I was working as an EMT, graduating college. I was an EMT, so emergency medical tech. If you guys don't know,
Yep,
those are the guys in the ambulances, literally saving people's lives. That's what I was doing. And I was getting paid $20 an hour in San Francisco.
dude.
So, but I didn't do much with my money. I didn't invest it. I would just use it. And when I met my girlfriend, she was telling me how she paid off like 25K in debt and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yo, how did you do that? And it just motivated me so much. And I started watching people like Graham Stephan on YouTube and watching
Yeah,
all these
Graham.
financial people
Yeah.
on YouTube. And I just got so motivated. And from then on, I just skyrocketed to investing all my money into the stock market and talking to her brother who just became a millionaire off got a lot of money from like investing into Tesla stock. So I ended up getting that financial knowledge thankfully because of social media and thankfully because of my lady and her siblings that had
Mhm.
um a good understanding of financials. But my parents, if I had learned from them, I probably would be in a bad place because they kept telling me, "Oh, go buy that new Tesla you want. Go keep buying that new car you
Yeah,
want." And I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, in the back of my mind, I was like, "Yeah, maybe I should. Why not?" And I was only making $20 an hour. Why would I? That doesn't even make any
Dude,
sense.
yeah.
And I didn't have much debt back then. I only had like 10K or something, but I paid it off even with my $20 an hour job. I was working extra hours and I was just so motivated by my girlfriend who paid off 25K. I was like, F it, I'm gonna knock out 10K then.
Dude, I
knocked
absolutely
it
love that.
out. And then from then on, just been investing in everything I could since then.
What was that? What was that process like though? Like at least for me, there was like more of an emotional. I mean, there's an actual intellectual understanding of finances, and there's an emotional side of finances, which is like, okay, like I'm not going to be poor, and I'll likely be very wealthy, or like wealthy
Mm.
by a traditional standard, and potentially very wealthy. Yeah, that's yet to play out. But like, like what was that like for you, that transition? And if you did have that similar transition in, I'll call it like identity or belief around money, what was that like for you? Because there's a lot of people listening that have student loans, that are struggling financially. Maybe they're unemployed, right? So like what did that feel like for you to really realize that like, okay, like, I can really do this.
It's a good question. I guess I'm not much of an emotional person. I'm more logical than emotion.
Okay.
But I guess if you're telling me to think about it now, there was some moments where, I was just sitting there like feeling like crap, thinking about it was only 10K too. Like 10K is not
Yeah.
much, but I was making 20 bucks an hour, so it looked like a big number to me. Um, so I would just look at that number and be like, crap, this is a lot. I'm screwed. My life
Hmm.
is over. But as I started to make real money, like I made my first six figures, I was like, okay, I'm in the right place. Now I wonder how much more I can make and where I can get to the point where I can start supporting my family. And I think the actual emotional part will come in once I really start to support my family.
Yeah.
I kind of can now, but not necessarily, because I think if you really want to support your whole family, it takes a few millions.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's where the emotional state will really come in. There was a lot of a lot of like feeling proud of myself when like I bought my first property at
Hmm.
27, and it was here in LA. Most people can't do that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, for me, I'm always thinking about the next thing. And I'm very thankful for my lady because she kind of just sits me down and tells me, like, be proud of yourself. You did something that like most people don't do right now.
Hmm.
You got to look at all your friends. Do any of them have what you have right now? And I'm like, I guess not. She's like, you have to be proud of yourself. You have to like that, like what you're saying. What's the emotion of that? And sometimes I
Hmm.
really don't think about the emotion of that because I'm so logical and I'm just thinking about the next thing. I'm like, what's the next one I'm gonna buy? What's next? That's all I'm thinking
Okay.
about.
Yeah.
But I think even more emotion will come in once I get that financial freedom for my family.
Yeah. That makes sense though. I mean, some people process things more logically, some people process things more emotionally. Um, I do want to go back in time with you. I think I've gotten to know you a little bit better. You are where you're at now. Like, what was the hardest moment that you've had, and not just in sales, but just in life that you've had to overcome? And would love to walk through the audience of how you overcame that.
Hardest moment?
Yeah, most challenging moment or your greatest challenge.
I feel like my greatest challenge was that, which we talked about earlier,
Hmm.
was making that transition from healthcare to tech sales. Because it is a
Hmm.
big 180 and you have your family in the background telling you they're not happy with you making the change, that they're not proud of you.
Yeah.
They're proud now because
Of
they
course
see
they
I'm
are,
doing
because you
I'm
you're
doing
able to prove
fine.
down. Yeah.
Yeah. They see I'm doing well now, but like it's not
Yeah.
like they were supporting me throughout the whole venture. So I think that was the toughest part because, like I said, there wasn't that many supporting systems.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would
You
definitely say it was
you
then.
bring up a great point though. I was something I'm happy you brought up was like family criticism and like like how did you handle that as you went through? What was that like as you made the change? I'm sure some friends had something to say as you made the change from EMT to software. I'm sure your family did. Like, how did you handle that? 'Cause I think a lot of people struggle with maybe it's not just going to sales. Maybe it's like starting to post on LinkedIn or something. They
Yeah.
struggle to deal with that. How did you deal with that?
Well, at least for the tech sales piece, I just thought of like other people that I had talked to and how much they were making, and I was like, is it realistic for me to get to where they are?
Mhm.
And in my head, with my ego and my hunger and my drive, I was like, heck yeah, if they can do it, I can definitely do it.
That's exactly the voice in my head too. I'm like, oh, if you could do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm always thinking like it's not even to look down on people, it's just to
No, it's
look
just yeah.
up on myself.
Yeah.
Like, if they can do it, Like I can definitely do it. I have the hunger.
Yeah, yeah.
I can get there if I really wanted to. So when I saw what people were making and how long it took them and stuff like that, I was like, okay, then this is a realistic route. So that's why it was kind of easy to let ease out some of the noise. And I never
Mhm.
really thought to look back at healthcare at all. And when you talk about LinkedIn, like what, like the noise from LinkedIn posts, starting LinkedIn post, there's a lot there. Like I've heard people make some jokes like, oh, the link, like I don't know if they're like, some people could be joking or some people are just messing around or some people are partially serious with some of their jokes, like, oh, it's the LinkedIn influencer or like blah blah. Then sometimes someone will make like a snarky remark under that, and it's like it is what it is. Like you know the benefits of being a LinkedIn
Yeah.
influencer yourself. So it's like at this
I don't know
point,
if I call myself an influencer, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
you're up there.
I get, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of easy to put away the noise now, but move going up and moving up within like social media space, yeah, it's a little mentally it'll get to you, especially with what people say and the criticism and stuff like that. But
How do you handle that? Because I think that cripples people, right? And I think that like even I'll even share this too. I was sitting with a buddy of mine at Sprout. He's actually gonna be on the pod. He's a very, very good dude. And he was like, Habush, I don't think people understand you, right? And I'm like, I never even thought people were talking about me. It was like, I don't think people understand you, right? And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, okay, well, like, what are people saying? And it's just like it's those moments where you really start to be yourself, and people are like, what the hell, right?
yeah,
So how do you handle the criticism?
I think what really helps is like the same thing for tech sales. If I see someone else is killing it and they're bringing in a lot of change out of it,
Yep.
like for me, when I first started LinkedIn posts, it was to get leads for my company, which didn't end up necessarily happening. It ended up going towards the route of like, oh shoot, you can actually make money off of social media on the
Hmm.
side as like a side hustle. And the main goal was just to get leads for my company. So it's crazy that that ended up happening. But you see people like Alex Hermosi, or you see people on social media, like on TikTok nowadays, who are so transparent about how much they get from their brand partnerships and
Hmm.
anything that they're from like their courses and stuff like that on social media. So when I thought of it like that, and I was like, okay, again, same thing. If they can do it, I can freaking do it, right?
Hmm.
So now I'm thinking, forget the critics again. There's always going to be critics. People are always
Always,
going to talk about
always,
you.
fucking
So just
always.
keep doing you,
Yeah,
you know? So that's just the way I thought about it. Keep doing
I
you,
love
F
it.
the critics.
I love it. Freaking love that. Yeah, that pumps me up, man. So let's transition to your social and to the impact we're gonna have. You do some really, really quality social content, which is like the day in the life and just some of the posts around volume and hard work and things like that. Like, what inspired you to want to start posting, and when did all that start? And like, walk us through some of that process. I really want to dive into that with you.
Yeah, like I was saying, I started off with um with posting on LinkedIn because the goal was to get leads for the first company I was working
Mm.
for, or one of the companies I was working for. And so I kept posting consistently because I was like, okay, maybe I'll get leads off of it and it'll give me more presence in front of like these prospects' eyes
Mhm.
because they'll keep seeing me on the feed. That was my perspective. They'll keep
Yeah.
seeing me on the feed. At some point they'll buy from me. That was all I was thinking. And so I kept posting for that reason. It brought me leads every once in a while, but it wasn't like a consistent, like huge volume flow or
Yeah.
anything like that. But when I did see those leads come in every once in a while, I was like, oh, might as well keep it going. Why not? Right.
Hmm.
Um, and then I just saw what other LinkedIn influencers were doing, creating communities and stuff like that, and the brand partnerships they were getting. And I just ended up getting motivated by that and motivated by the fact of like helping other people keep moving up within the
Yeah.
industry and people that were like on LinkedIn trying to break into tech sales. And that motivated me too, because getting in isn't that easy. Um, and just the fact, like, especially people who are in healthcare and they don't realize that there's other industries out there where you can make even more money and not spend all that debt and all that time.
Hmm.
That's what motivates me too, to show them like, hey, this is what's out there. So talking about it on social media and it's definitely definitely been beneficial.
Yeah. And what is the impact that you want to have on like with the social? Like, what's the one impact that you want to have on folks when you post?
I think it's that, like, if you're in a different industry, well, it's a few things. If you're in a different industry and you're going on LinkedIn, like when you're in healthcare, you're not really hopping on LinkedIn much. But when you're in healthcare and you're thinking about making a career switch, now you're starting to look at LinkedIn.
Hmm.
So for that, for those select few people, and they click on mine and they see that I went from healthcare to tech sales, I want to make an impact on those people or people who are in different industries. Like maybe they did car sales or door-to-door sales and they don't realize how
Hmm.
much transferable skills they actually have to break into tech sales, right? Um, there's that impact, and there's also the impact of like SDRs who are lost and they want to move up and go from SDR to AE or SDR to account
Yeah.
manager or figure out what kind of upward mobility they should go towards. And I just want to inspire those people because I went from SDR to AE and I also went to account manager. So now I have a perspective of all three roles, and I could tell you what, like, you just got to try these things to figure out what you really want to do.
Yeah, which again, I love your willingness to try. You said that earlier, and you said it again. I absolutely love that. When does social really start taking off for you? Because you got about 12K followers right now, which is really like a sizable, like the amount of people I see that actually have like 10K and up is not. I mean, there's some, but like there's not that many. Like what? When did it really start taking off for you?
I'd say it was within the last year.
Okay,
I've been posting for like 2 years, I think. I'm
is
pretty
that like
sure it's been
every
2 years.
day or like 4 or 5 times a week? What is that?
I've been posting 5 times a week. Um, I wouldn't say it's been like every single week, 5 times a week for 2 years straight.
Soft.
Uh, there was some weeks where like when I went to Japan, I took a break, and then there's just a few weeks where maybe I took a couple breaks here and there, but I still stayed consistent and kept posting. Um, but when I really took off was just I think the consistency factor. That's where I'll continue to beat people is because I stay consistent. And I talked about my growth. If LinkedIn somehow makes it look more visually appealing with your posts instead of having to scroll all the way down, um, at some point you would be able to see that I've been posting since I was an SDR, and I posted my whole trajectory from SDR to AE to
The
AM.
consistency, the consistency, the consistency.
Yeah, and I wish LinkedIn made it look nicer so you could see that whole trajectory. But for now, you have to scroll the freaking way down. And it's not the best. But it's just the fact that there's consistency.
And how did you find your voice on LinkedIn? Because I feel like people like I know I started with thinking I was going to talk about one thing and I changed. I knew the impact, but it kind of changed. Like, how did, yeah, did you, was the thing you started with the thing you ended with as far as impact, or like how did that evolve over time? And how did you, I'm not, yeah, let's at least start there.
How did say that one more time? The
How did the purpose of posting, or how did your voice on LinkedIn change over time, if at all?
hmm. Well, that's a good question because I used to think of like imposter syndrome a lot.
Yeah.
And I would think like, why am I posting and why am I giving people advice on what to do? And again, I look up to Alex Ramosi a lot,
So do
like
I.
a lot.
Big
I,
fan.
I moving up within social media, I learned so much from him. And one of the things that I had learned from him was like, if you're only one, there was one video that I watched and I still remember it till this day.
I know what you're talking about. I know exactly. I already know what you're gonna say. Say it. Just say it. I already know what you're gonna say.
If you're in a role for like only 1 year or whatever, and you don't feel like you have enough experience, then you would just talk about your experience moving up within that
Yep.
role, right?
Yep.
And then once you have 3 years under your belt, now there's people that are maybe 1 year or 2 years behind you, and you
Yeah.
can teach them something as someone who has 3 years of experience versus those people that only have 1 year or less,
Yeah.
right? So listening to that video, I really learned to get rid of that imposter syndrome. It also helped me realize like I shouldn't be telling you like, hey, this is how you cold call, this is how you cold email or whatever. It's
Hmm.
like, here, this is what I did. Here's what I
Yeah.
learned.
Yes.
This is what worked for me.
Yeah.
and maybe you try it out and see if it works for you.
Dude, that's the
Right?
exact advice I got. Yeah, there's a big time. I guess well, yeah, I guess I could say it. I reached out to John Barrows and said, "Hey, can I talk to you about content?" He's nice enough to take the time. And that's exactly what he said. He's like, "Dude, if you're gonna post, totally do it, but just like say it exactly like what you said, because otherwise, it's just like who are you to tell someone on the cold call, right?"
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I don't really like when like I realize this too is like I like when people tell me their experience and I can learn from
yeah,
it versus
yeah.
when someone tells me what to do. Like I don't want to be just told what to do. Tell me what you did in the past and didn't
And
work and
then
what
yeah,
worked.
yeah. And I
So I
think
realize I learned the best that way
Alex does
too.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, What do you think, following up on that, what do you think has been some of the key principles that have led to your growth on LinkedIn? Because again, like there are other people out there who have been consistent that haven't had the growth that you have. Like, what do you think are some of the things you do that are unique or maybe I'll throw an Alex reference, make you a 0 of 1, or make you a 1 of 0 rather.
Yeah. I always think about how I can be unique on social media or at least on LinkedIn. I'm posting on all socials now.
I saw
And
that out of the way. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Yeah, I love that.
one thing that I noticed that um, a lot of people weren't doing was posting video. And that's because there's a lot of, I'm going to say it, there's a lot of boomers on LinkedIn. There's a lot of older people on LinkedIn. And so a lot of them are just so used to being behind a keyboard and just typing.
Yeah, yeah,
So I wanted to take advantage of that and be like, okay, how can I set myself apart? Because just doing these LinkedIn posts, it's not like as relatable versus actually seeing someone on camera. So I was like, okay, let me try something else. So I started off with posting videos of me saying week one of being an account manager, week two being an account manager and stuff like that. Then I started with the day in the lives and they started blowing up and I realized, okay, this relatability factor is really what people like.
yeah.
And it sets me apart because most of these people are just doing regular blog posts and not too many people are doing video and they're not and if they are doing video a lot of them aren't doing it well. They just maybe they don't know how to edit. There's a lot of people who don't know how to edit on LinkedIn. They'll just post the video.
Well, honestly, you could throw me in that. Cam, I do know how to edit, but I thought your edits were. We can get really nitty gritty here. Actually, this will be fun. I thought your edits were good. I saw your cuts, and I know like that was good. That was good. How do you
Thank you.
like? I'm gonna get because now I'm as curious as like a quote unquote fan. Like, how do you just get a bunch of like I don't want to call it B-roll, but you take multiple cuts and just mash them together, and you just kind of know the storyline?
Yeah, and to be transparent, I'm not like like the best editor. Like I'm literally just using CapCut. There's way
Yeah,
better as out there is using like Final Cut Pro. If you're using Final Cut Pro, I'm assuming you're pretty up there. And you have a real camera. I'm only using my iPhone.
yeah. Hmm.
So I've been using my iPhone the whole time for everything, but I do want to get to a camera at some point. Right now, like you said, just grabbing all those video clips, putting them together, uh, cutting it up, and putting a sound to it, and using this mic basically to add any
Dude, I love it.
additional audio to it. I'm not using that much equipment. If you want to get started, you just get started with
Yeah,
whatever you got.
totally, dude. I absolutely love
Yeah.
it. Do you have like a storyline? Like I'm getting really nitty gritty. Do you have like a storyline? Like what does the process of a video look like for you? Do you create like a little bit of a sort of like a here's a story theme. I know I'm gonna do these 2 or 3 clips. Like what does that look like?
Yeah, one thing that one guy that I saw on social media that talks about is like I thought about like what I should get better at first, and he said the first thing I need to get better at is storytelling. Because once I can really grab
Ah,
those
it's a good
listeners
one.
from storytelling, then I'll focus on my video quality and audio quality or whatever.
Good one.
I kind of went towards audio quality first, and then now I'm focusing on storytelling. I wanted to get a camera right away, and then I saw that video, and I was like, "Shit, you have a good point. I don't know how to storytell yet," and that's
How
what
do
really
you
grabs
storytell?
viewers. I don't
What do
think
you
I'm
do?
great at it yet. I'm not great at it yet. Like one thing I learned from like Ben Matano and one thing I learned from just watching social media in
Yeah,
general
dude.
was like that before and after thing, where it's like after I did this, what is it? It's like rather than saying and for everything, because that's gonna bore your viewers, it's like after I did this and it resulted in this, or something along those lines. And that's what I continue to try doing is talking about like what happened in my day, what happened after, and what did it result in. Then hopefully it'll relate. I'm still not amazing at storytelling. I can get better at it for sure.
Okay. I mean, your videos are pretty good though. I do very much enjoy
Thank you.
them. Yes, you're absolutely welcome. You've absolutely earned it. The content is really strong. Uh, with that being said, are there any words of wisdom that you have to someone that is thinking about creating content or thinking about improving their content that you think is yeah something that you would have wanted known, now 2 years in?
It's so cliche, but to be honest, if you just want to start, just freaking do
Just
it
do it, yeah.
and ignore the noise and just stay consistent because there's a lot of people that start and they just give up. I know a lot of people that will leave for 2 months and they'll get bogged down and then come back and try to do content
Yeah,
again and then you come off and on, off and on. That's so wishy-washy. Just stay consistent the whole time. If you need a
dude.
little break, okay, maybe take one little break here and there, but try to stay as consistent as possible. And you're gonna feel the hunger and also the environment you're in, the community you're in is gonna help you out too. Like I talk to Alex Bruschi a lot, and we talk about social
Alex, so
all the
cool.
time.
I love
So
Alex.
yeah, so talking to people who are also on social, like I have another well, no longer a coworker, but this coworker was killing it on TikTok, and I was learning from this coworker too. So just surrounding yourself with those people is going to help you out too. Because if you're just doing it alone, trying to figure it out by yourself,
That's brutal.
it,
Yeah,
it can be brutal, but you can also learn from their mistakes and tell them what's working
yeah,
for you, and they'll tell you what's working for them. That helps out.
dude. Uh, totally. I absolutely love that. You kind of have to just get going. Okay, we've covered a lot. We've covered you going from EMT into software, what made you successful at ZoomInfo, some of the most, challenging moments um and now content. Absolutely love it. With that being said though, before I ask the final question, where can people find you and learn more about you?
Yeah, if you go on LinkedIn, you just look at my name, Elmer Lopez. I'll be the guy with the blue tie.
The guy with the
And if
blue
you want
tie,
to
I
go
absolutely
find
love
me on
that.
the other socials, it's elmerlopez.tech, except for YouTube. My YouTube's Elmer Lopez Tech. Someone else took that name for some reason. And then my Spotify, Apple for my podcast is Sales Enabled Podcast. Definitely check it out. It has like an orange theme on it. You'll see it.
Tell us about it, by
And
the
that's it.
way. That's the one question I forgot to ask. Tell us about the Sales Neil podcast. Why'd you make it? Why should people listen?
Yeah, yeah. No, the Sales Enabled Podcast. Think of it as like the Dave Ramsey of sales podcast. So people will call in and they'll come in and ask their questions about tech sales and how we can help
Oh,
them
it's
out.
genius.
Maybe they're trying to break into tech sales or they want to talk about their deals that they have today. So we'll talk through all those kind of things. So if you want to be on there, definitely shoot us a message on Sales Enabled Podcast or shoot me a message on LinkedIn at Elmer
Dude,
Lopez.
that's absolutely genius, by the way. Good for you. I
Hey,
absolutely love
thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Oh,
I love
dude,
this
right.
podcast too.
Oh, thank you, man. No, we should talk about that more. Well, regardless, we're almost at time. So that being said, last and final question. Let's say someone does not have time to listen to this episode, but they have the time to listen to the end of it, and they can take one piece of advice from you. And there's someone that's early in their sales career, or maybe someone's experienced in their sales career, but they're just going through a hard time and trying to get themselves to grow and improve. What's the one piece of advice you would have for them?
Yeah, I think find your why and stay consistent. I think once you find your why, it's going to make it easier to stay consistent.
Dude, fire. But we need to put that on a shirt. Fire. Dude, that
You should quote it.
we're gonna stop it right there. That being said, everyone, thank you for so much for tuning in. Elmer, brother, seriously, I really appreciate you coming on. I respect the way you're going about things and your hustle. And we will see you all next time.